Welcome for yet another adventure into lithiums. If we haven't figured out by now, this channel is not just going to be about one thing. This will cover virtually anything and everything. So today, as it states, we will cover rebuilding regular drill packs. And I say regular as in lithium, since that seems to be the standard nowadays. This will not work on the older versions, such as the older ones. Sometimes they will show a different chemistry. In this case, it is a NiCad, and it is not going to be the same as a lithium ion. We will speak only about lithiums, not NiCads, not nickel metals, or any of the other ones. This will apply to virtually any and all of them. Some of them are just going to be shaped different, have a different amount of cells, and different capacity ratings. So in this case, this is regular 5 cells, and this is a regular 5 cells. They're just shaped different. And if you notice, take 5 cells, line them up, and they match. Now some of the higher capacity ones, I know Dewalt does a 60 volt. That is a little bit more cells. There are a 3 amp hour, and there just happens to be more cells in parallel. So instead of just 1 row of 5, there will be 2 rows of 5. So we will just do this based on the Craftsman volt, or the Craftsman lithium battery, not the Dewalt. The Dewalt is just for reference, but it does apply to other ones. So the diehards, you can get these. Some people want them rebuilt. Some people will throw them in the recycling bins. If you can get them out of the recycling bins, it's great. Sometimes it is just simply a cell that goes bad and not the entire pack. They do typically have a BMS board, or a battery management system, on them. So in the event that 1 out of the 5 cells go bad, or 2 of them, it will shut down the entire pack. So to get started, these will have 4 screws in the bottom of the packs. They are security bits. So you can simply go down to Harbor Freight. There's like a 36-bit extended shank security bit set. This just happens to be a V1-10. And I say the extended shank because some of these, when you start to actually unscrew them, it's a little bit deeper. So my standard security bit sets did not work. Had to go get some extended shanks. You just want to take out the 4 screws. These are already pre-loosened. Save a little bit of time. One, 2, 3, and 4. The top will simply lift off with a little bit of work. And now you have your innards. This is your BMS that I talked about. This one does have a little bit of a coating on it, I assume for water and moisture, which is a good thing. A little dirty in here, shows that they actually use them. Now to get these out, these are a little bit more simple. Some of the other packs that I've done, these little latches that you use to put in and latch it into the system, you just kind of pull them in just a little bit and then straight up. From there, you can rock it back and forth until it comes out. They do have sometimes a little bit of glue in the bottoms to hold them in, not very much. You can leave that in there, set that to the side. Now, depending on your drill pack, whether it's a Craftsman or a Dewalt or Makita, Milwaukee, whatever, throwing names out there, even the cheapies, first thing you will want to do is actually turn the cells over, or the pack, whichever way you want to look at it. And it may not show up in the camera. Let's see if I can go in just a little bit more and get it. Just barely, right there. So in this case, it says it's a Sanyo, and it's an 18650 SA. That is what you will want to look up to find specs. Now in this case, I've already done that, so we can cut through, save a little bit more time. Once you know what your cells are, you'll know what the nominal capacity is, or else, you know, what you're having for runtime. Continuous discharge. Obviously this is the bottom cutoff. Now some of these will change, some of these will not. This is something that you want to pay attention to though, because if your old cells have a 2.4 volt cutoff and your new cells have a 2.5, granted it's only 1.1 volt difference, but that does affect battery life. It's been shown throughout the web. You can take time and read up on that. Another one is protected or not. Some of them on the very end will have their own very small, I don't want to say a BMS per se, but it does help protect the cell itself. In this case, the old one does not, so you don't want the new one to particularly have one. The old cells, as it shows, standard charge current is 875 mA, and the new ones are 1475. This is important because if you have your old ones at 875 and your new ones are at 1475, that means your new ones will be able to take the charge current of the old ones. Now if you had this flipped around and your old ones would be able to take 1475 and the new one's 875, this would not be a good candidate because your BMS is likely to charge them at too fast of a rate. They'll become hot. Now, both the specs were pulled. These were the links. Obviously you can't click them, but if need be, you can type it out or just look for them. So a breakdown to be able to do one pack. It was from the battery store. They're $5.99 a cell. If you get 10 or more of them, they get cheaper. So with 5 cells, just for plugging it in, there was about $5 and some change of shipping. And in the end of that, you have one battery pack is about $36. Now granted, you're not going to go down and get a new Craftsman pack for $36, let alone, here's a big one. The old one was only 1.2 amp hour or 1200 milliamp hour. The new one, judging by the cells, is about 3500, so almost 3 times the capacity or 3 times the runtime. On the Dewalt, it actually states 1.5 amp hour or 1500 milliamps, which would be down around here. In the event this pack dies, obviously I will check the other characteristics, but most likely it'll get the 18650 GAs as well. So even though it says 1.5 amp hour, that doesn't mean that we can't make an improvement upon the pack. So driving on. This is where it gets a little bit more into it. When these come out originally, they did have a little piece of foam stuck down the sides here on both sides. I've already removed that. It's the same as these here. So you can go ahead and take those off, put them to the side. Now these little tabs, they've all been spot welded on. They're a little bit fun to get off of there. They can be a little tricky at times, and they do alternate, so it's negative, positive, negative, positive. One thing you want to be careful of is that when you do this, when working on these and prying a little bit, this top is your positive, and it actually has a little spacer in between it which protects it from the rest of the body, which goes down and connects directly to the negative. So there's been times, yes, I've done it, where you get to wedging on these and trying to pull this up, and you get to rocking, and it actually chews through both the plastic sleeve and the protective piece, and you actually ground out against the case. Sometimes it'll happen, sometimes it doesn't. You just have to take your time and watch it. So get you a little bitty screwdriver, a jeweler's screwdriver if you will, and then you just simply start here in the center. Come in just a little bit. Where it's raised, it's a little bit raised, so it gives you a little bit of a gap. Just start working your way underneath of it. Should come up fairly easy. You don't have to go at it real hard. Work your way across. apply some pressure here. That'll keep this side down, and when you push up on this, the whole thing itself does not bow, but it keeps the pressure out here. And then you just want to work your way in there. Sometimes work it down, work it up, and then it pops up. And then you go to the next one, so on and so forth. Save a little bit of time. Got one completely done. As you can see, these little tabs are a little bent, a little bit mangled. That will straighten out here in a little bit. Just get all of them off of there. Once you have that loose, pull your individual cells out, paying attention to polarity, obviously positive and negative. Nice and glued in, so it may take a little bit to get them out of there. The easiest way to remember polarity is once you get down to the very last one, get your old cells over out of the way, and get your new cells, and then you start populating them. This is sticky. So as you pull the last one out, you just put it in there in the way the old one come out. Now, I've already went ahead and put solder on these. Well, I'm sorry, not all of them. Most of them. As you can see, it's rather flat and laid in there. Now, do a short one on that. The only thing that I've done, take the new cells, a little bit of paste, a little bit of solder. I just simply rub my finger in there a little bit, smear some of that on there. You don't have to have a whole lot. It'll still go down on there. Now here's the big one that I do as opposed to what I've seen a lot. A lot of people want to go and just stick the soldering iron on there and wait for it to heat up and then put the solder on, etc. I, on the other hand, like to take some solder and actually put it on the soldering iron tip and then let it sit there for a couple of seconds. This will get a little blob of solder really hot, and the only thing you've got to do is just touch it on there for just a brief little bit, and then it wets right in there and lays flat. That's it. I know people talk about soldering directly to the cells, but as you've seen, it just took a brief second to get that on there. So again, you just take a little bit of paste, smear it on there, clean the solder tip, put some solder on the end of it. I can hold still. Wait for that to get nice and hot, and then simply drop it on there. Smear it around a little bit. That's it. We'll do one more. The rest of them are already done. There were 10 total. This one's already got the flux on it. Clean the tip. Add some solder to the iron. And drop it on there. Just like that. Now, to see that from the side, you see it just barely sticks up. It's not like it's a big blob sitting on top of it. Still remains fairly flat. A little bit of paste. do this out to the side. Sometimes the tip will not take the solder, it will not stick to it. So if you do it directly over it, you're liable to drop it directly on. So just do it out to the side. And then drop it on. Just like that. Now, let's get this out of the way. And finish populating. That one's a positive. This one will be a negative. Now we go through the fun part of getting these to be soldered onto the cells themselves. You can see these are kind of mangled, but the only thing you'd have to do, take a pair of needle nose if you want them that flat. Just flatten them out. Drink less coffee. You can also do this without the cells in there. That may give you a little more room to tweak on them if they're really bent out of shape. Now, one other thing somebody's probably going to throw me under the bus about is when you put cells in here, you don't necessarily want them all out of ranges for voltage. I did do a pre-check. They're all within ranges. They came to me with voltages all within, I think, 0.01, but you would want to make sure that they are all roughly the same. So you have, let's see here, we'll go through them. Leads are backwards, but 3.49, 3.49, 49, 49, and 49. So that's the other 5. These 5 are the exact same way. So that way I don't get murdered in the comment section or something. Now, you can go about this a couple of ways. Some people like to talk about, sonic welding back to them, putting these new strips on there. I'm not going to do that. You don't have to. You can make solder joints work just as well. Some of my other builds, I've got another one where I done brass strips. You can order those. You can cut them, just to go in place of these, solder them down to it, and then resolder the BMS lead. I'm not going to do that on this one. So from here, same concept as the batteries. I get a little bit of paste, put it on the bottom side. As before, it's not like you need a lot.
This one, that way I don't bend it all. I'll put it back out. Just go ahead and do the other side where you've already got your finger in the paste and then you're already done with it. Same thing on the other end. Once you get it turned around, you have to do the negative side. Oop, almost got it there.
So now, we got all the paste in there. Now, same as before, we're going to use hot solder on the tip to go ahead and seat these onto the batteries. Now, earlier when I was pulling them off of there, they actually developed little bitty holes in the strips from where they were sonic welded. as you can see here and here. Now I like to reuse these for that because when these will get soldered down, the solder will come up through the hole and create a better soldering joint. I know some are going to go nuts in the comments and carry on about it, but I don't know how many of these packs I've done. If there's other ways to do it, so be it. This is just how I choose to do it. You know, everybody has their own flavor of Kool-Aid, if you will. So, back out with the soldering iron. A bit of solder. I like to use something else to hold these down because they will get hot. Now the solder's still on there as you're working around. It'll stay there for the most part unless you bump it really hard. It's not going to fall off of there. It stays really hot. And then you can just simply set it on there. You can hear it set itself in there. Now you have one soldered strip. And if you want to, you can push it down a little bit, move it around, and that's just one hole. You have two holes. I suggest you go to a different cell, so that way you're distributing the heat. Not that you're on there very long. And then you can simply set it on there. And like that. The end ones are a little more fun. They're a little bit stiffer. They don't like to move around a whole lot. So sometimes you have to kind of go at it once or twice. If you don't, so like this one, I didn't stay on it very long. It didn't end up connecting together. I'm not gonna go back and put more heat on it right at the moment. That's always bad for a cell. So I'll move on to other ones. The big thing here is that I did get solder to stick to the actual lead itself. So it'll make it easier to get it to stick to the cell next. So we can move down here. More solder. Hold it down and drop it on. Seems I'm getting a buildup on it. Clean tip. More solder. Let it get nice and hot. And set it on there. So I'll go ahead and get these all finished up and we will be back. So another small way that may help in this is sometimes when you go to actually solder them onto the cells, you will have some issues where it wants to, as a tab wants to soak up the heat, it don't want to get as hot and actually lay into the cell. So you can also go ahead and pre-solder some of the tabs themselves, and just like the cells where we went ahead and put a little bit of solder on those, you can do the same thing to the tabs, and it'd make it just a little bit faster and a little bit easier to set the tabs on the cells. So same thing, a little bit of solder, wait until it gets hot. Now I'm working on a silicone surface, so it's not going to burn it. Just solder and go. obviously, flip it over and do the other side. So we are back. They've all been soldered on. Now, granted, these are not going to look as pretty as the original spot welds, but they are on there, they are secure and connected. They're not going to come apart. So once you get all those done, get your meter back out. You can go right on down through there again. Check them, 348, 48. And if I can get down there, 48. Again and again. Now, here's the bigger one. Go from one side to the other. You have 17.45. So if you take your 3.48 all the way down through there times 5, you get your voltage. Now, before just getting ahead of yourself and going ahead and putting it back together, etc., you want to go ahead and make sure that you have your voltage up here as well. 1737. It's slightly off, but that's going to be due to your BMS and some of the voltage drop. So, now that you have all tested out, secure this just a little bit. These are not going to want to stick. They've got stuff all in them. So I may have to do this a couple of ways. Across the top, a little bit of Scotch electrical tape. That one seems fairly sticky, like it's going to stay. And then for good measure, to go ahead and protect the edges of it, we'll go ahead and go on around the edges of it. It works out that the electrical tape is almost the exact same height as the cells. So you just lay them both on the table and go right on around. Base back out. Let's go back in there just like that. Get your pieces. Yeah, go that way. Now from here, you're gonna have to push in on the top of this, or push down, and then slide it back down in there. So from a different angle, you're gonna just barely take the bottom lip, grab the metal piece, push it in like you're trying to unclamp it from the device, and then just slide it down in there. Go right back in there. Top back on. Security bits. It is plastic, so don't go at it too hard or else it'll just drive straight on through the plastic and strip them out. as you can see, especially back here on the back side, that bit drops in there, goes quite a bit ways down in there. When I tried to use my standard bits, it didn't want to work out exactly right. I even tried to force it down in there just a little bit. You can barely see it on this one. It kind of chewed up the plastic a little, but I still could not get down there far enough to get to it. Either way, that is one completed cell, or one pack. Next thing you would want to do is take it, throw it in your drill, test it, make sure it works, and then throw it on the charger, make sure that the charger is going to like it. Don't have either one of those, so let's see, Dieters, cough up the drill or the charger or both, and then I'll have a new drill and battery pack. I have a whole nother pack to do. I'm not going to film both of them at the same time. It's the same for one as it is for the other one. Make sure you check out some of the other videos. There is a full build on a 14S pack. For an electric chopper. There is also an actual build for a pack made with random cells. You can salvage individual cells such as these from laptops and other things, test them, put them in other packs, and build stuff out of them. Built anything from an electric chopper. That video is in the list. I've built Bluetooth ammo cans. Anything and everything, to include phone chargers and jelly bean cans for the kids. So, by all means, like, subscribe, share, and stay tuned for more.